Oh, okay, great. Yep, yep. It's in good shape. We remodeled it this summer. So,
Good morning. Nice to see you.
thank you.
I'm on names and
That's right. The amen. Yes, at the very end.
Nice to see you both. Thank you.
Grateful to be there.
When I die, give what's left of me away to children and old men who wait to die. And if you need to cry, cry for your brother walking the street beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around anyone and give them what you need to give to me. I want to leave you something better than words or sounds. Look for me in the people I've known or loved. And if you cannot give me away, at least let me live on in your eyes and not your mind. You can love me most by letting hands touch hands, by letting bodies touch bodies, and by letting go of children that need to be free. Love doesn't die, people do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away.
Good morning. It is good to be with you on this All Saints Sunday, at this All Saints Sunday gathering of remembrance. My name is Reverend Christpher. I serve alongside my colleague, the Reverend Jody Betton, the Fountain Street Church Choir, Todd Wilkie and Austin, McDaniel Williams, and of course, Jonathan Tuuk. And it is good to be with you as we take a moment and honor a tradition rich in the story brought to us by the Christian cycle called the lectionary. All Souls Day and All Saints Day, November 1st and 2nd, is an opportunity to look back on Christian mythology and global mythology and honor this moment in which it is said that the veil is thinnest and those who have departed this earth are closest to each and every one of us. And whether this is part of your theology or mythology, or whether you are one grounded in the cycle and rhythms of the earth, this is an opportunity for each and every one of us to come together in the presence of the divine spirit of love and honor and remember and cherish those who have loved us and who are no longer with us physically. This is a different kind of service. This is a litany. This is a liturgy. This is a service and a gathering that has different components, including litanies that are in your program insert, several hymns, several prayers. And throughout the service, you will be invited to pause, to simply be, and allow that veil that goes through your heart to become just a little bit thinner during this hour with one another. In the spirit of All Saints Sunday, in the spirit of those who have loved us and we continue to love, will you please join me in this All Saints prayer as we begin our time with one another. Holy One of blessing, as we gather on this All Saints Sunday, let us call into our minds and our hearts all the saints who have blessed and continue to bless our lives. Those family saints, spouses and partners and mothers and fathers, grandparents, great-grandparents, sisters, brothers, aunts, uncles, and cousins. Saints who modeled living for us, who stay with us through the days and years and all times in which we need love and joy most. For them, we give thanks. To those friend saints, childhood and adult friends, those young and not so young, tea time and coffee time and mealtime friends who listen and cry and laugh with us. For them, we give thanks. Those work saints, friends, co-workers, bosses and employees and fellow travelers, those mentors and teachers who are with us and within us when goals are too hard to name and when trying to work with dignity and integrity seems so very hard to do. For them, we give thanks. Those community saints, those who serve, those elected or to be elected or who once were elected, those educators and manufacturers and nurturers whose presence makes our lives and our life easier and more pleasant, and for those who strive and toil and work to bring a vision of justice, equality, and peace to our world. For them, we give thanks. Those unnamed, unknown saints, those who overcome obstacles and teach us how to overcome obstacles, those whose presence reminds us that we are called to do more and be more than we ever thought was possible. Those who bear the burden and let us assist them in bearing the burden amongst others. Those who have given willfully and unselfishly. Those who have and continue to demonstrate strength, courage, and wisdom in the face of pain and tragedy. For each of them and all of them, we give thanks. In this time with one another, we recognize that today we are called to recognize all of the saints, those saints before us, among us, and beyond us. May we affirm the sainthood in them and the sainthood within ourselves. Blessed be. Amen.
"'Tis a fearful thing to love what death can touch. A fearful thing to love, to hope, to dream, to be. To be and oh, to lose, a thing for fools this, and a holy thing to love. For your life has lived in me, your laugh once lifted me, your word was gift to me. To remember this brings painful joy. 'Tis a human thing, love, a holy thing, to love what death has touched.
Our first litany that you are invited to participate in is found in the insert inside of today's program. I will be reading the first voice, Reverend Jody will be reading the second, and you are encouraged to read the voice of many found in bold. They once dwelled among us, the people of memory.
They who knew us, they who taught us.
They touch our lives time and again through their presence and their absence.
Through familiar scents and favorite songs.
Through old stories and renewed sorrow.
As the earth churns and leaves fall, we reach back to renew the bonds between us.
With open hearts and hands open, we hold on to love even stronger than death.
We would never be who we are today.
We would have little to pass on ourselves.
We remember those who have gone before us.
We honor the circle of life and death. When death comes, like the hungry bear in autumn, when death comes and takes all the bright coins from his purse to buy me and snaps the purse shut, when death comes like the measles pox, when death comes like an iceberg between the shoulder blades, I want to step through the door full of curiosity, wondering, what is it going to be like, that cottage of darkness? And therefore, I look upon everything as a brotherhood and a sisterhood, And I look upon time as no more than an idea, and I consider eternity as another possibility. And I think of each life as a flower, as common as a field daisy and as singular, and each name as a comfortable music in the mouth, tending, as all music does, toward silence, and each body a lion of courage and something precious to the earth. When it's over, I want to say all my life was a bride, married to amazement. I was the bridegroom, taking the world into my arms. When it's over, I don't want to wonder if I have made of my life something particular and real. I don't want to find myself sighing and frightened or full of argument. I don't want to end up simply having visited this world.
You are invited to join us in our second litany for this morning, also found in your program. I invite you to follow along in the bolded texts. In the daily weave of our lives, those who have died are still strong guiding threads. Theirs is the golden glimmer, or perhaps the brilliant red or the melancholy blue. Still, they are part of the whole fabric of our lives. They are the ancestors, the goers before.
And because of all this,
in the hour-to-hour rush of our lives, they travel with us through something they taught, something that they had taught us, which is ours now to do. Whether it is through something they loved, which is now ours to carry out, or through something we shared, which is now ours alone to do, and yet not.
And because of all this,
in the minute-to-minute grasp of where we are, we remember the joys of our departed, which gave us and opened us up to hope, the sorrows we knew together, which taught us strength, and the life shared, which is now ours to steward.
And because of all this,
in the second-to-second pulse of life, we sense the spirit of those we have lost and loved. This presence is too shy for naming, too amorphous for full knowing, and yet as real as the days we shared.
And because of all this,
they are more than remembered. They are memory itself. For what we love lives on in the way our beloved dead accompany us through our life. Their words and wisdom, our guide, their humor, our relief, their restless concern for the world, our charge.
And because of all this, Do not stand at my grave and weep. I am not there. I do not sleep. I'm 1,000 winds that blow. I am the diamond glints on snow. I'm the sunlight on ripened grain. I'm the gentle autumn rain. When you awaken in the morning's hush, I am the swift, uplifting rush of quiet birds in circled flight. I'm the soft stars that shine at night. Do not stand at my grave and cry. I am not there. I did not die.
Oh
Thank you, choir. Two of the most enduring lessons that I carry with me on life and living, death and dying, came from my mentor some many years ago, who was a retired Episcopal priest. And I remember being reared up in that Episcopal tradition and then going through the discernment process in that tradition, that I served in a parish and a diocese that did not have a calcified understanding of the afterlife, much less any kind of specific or rote answer for whether there's a hell, whether there's a heaven, and who's going where. But I know that many of us had a hard time in believing in either. And I remember sitting at the breakfast table one day working with my mentor, and I said to him, "Gosh, Larry, what if we're all wrong? What if there is this blazing hell and this glimmering heaven, and we've been over here in the Episcopal Church just preaching and advocating against that, and we find out we were wrong?" And he took a big wise breath and he said, "Well, I'm going to assume there isn't, but if there is, it'll be a nice surprise." Within that humor, the subtext was, what I do now is what I'm going to focus on. How I live now is what is going to be the bedrock of my theology and philosophy to living. I also remember being very nervous about the fact that I would be responsible for presiding over memorials and celebrations of life and for funerals for people for whom they did have a different theology than mine, for people for whom they wanted the good news proclaimed that their beloved was in heaven with Jesus most often, or for those who had a starkly earth-based theology and they wanted nothing of my spiritual tradition to be represented. And I remember saying to him, "Larry, what do you do if you disagree? What do you do if you feel like it's an opportunity to teach them something new about the Christian theology? What do you do if it's something you don't feel like you can say?" And he said, "It doesn't matter. You can't intellectualize or theologize or philosophize your way out of death and loss and mourning. Because that's what your call to ministry is about, being present with the bereft, being present in loss and being present in sorrow." Presence. Being present, being in the now, cultivating the kind of beloved community and world we know is possible, is rooted and grounded in the theology of love and belonging and peace, and of course, the eternity that lives on from the ancestors we remember today. This very ministry wouldn't be here without 154 years worth of ancestors building upon one another's shoulders and handing them off to ours before we hand this ministry off to yet another generation and story. And we each exist in a similar fashion. It is the great season of being that we lift up and share and celebrate here at Fountain Street Church, and the season of being and becoming that I honor at every one of our memorial services here. If you've ever been to one of our memorial services, undoubtedly you've heard this ancient poetry. For everything there is a season, and a time for every matter under heaven, a time to be born, and of course a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up what has been planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build back up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to throw away stones and another time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. For everything there is indeed a season. And we've talked about the seasons of being in this church, and we've also talked about the fact that multiple truths or multiple seasons can and do exist at once. And we can hold all of it. That is the purpose of a spiritual being and a spiritual life and a spiritual community like ours, to hold all of it and to hold one another and all of one another in these seasons. Another metaphor often used by myself and colleagues is the metaphor of the moon phases. You've probably seen a lot of these. I wear them on Sundays, but also for baptisms when I officiate those, or wedding ceremonies, and most importantly, memorial services, a time to remember the phases of life in which we move with our beloved, the phases in which our relationships change and shift with one another and our beloved, and the phases of which our beloved go on before us, and the relationship shifts yet again. We know that our beloved live within and among us, if not physically, then within us. And these are the phases and the seasons that we are entrusted with carrying onward in their memory as part of cultivating eternity here and now. And so as we move into this time with one another, and we take a moment to silently reflect with one another on those who have gone before us and those we have been entrusted to keep alive in their honor together, I'm going to invite you in just a moment to come up and place a candle where you are comfortable, or stay seated and think about those who have gone before us. Not every relationship is easy. I would encourage you to think about the harder parts of those relationships too in this time together. I would encourage you to think about those who have shaped you, those who have loved you, and those who you want to keep alive as we go forth from this time together. And before we move into this part, into our vigil with one another, will you please pray with me these familiar words of our committal that is offered at every celebration of life? Please pray with me. To those we have loved and those who have loved us, your lives we honor, your departure we accept, your memory we cherish. In grief at your death, but in gratitude for your life and for the privilege of sharing life with you, we once again commit your body into the seasons of the earth. May your body return earth to earth, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, story to story, season to season, beginning to ending, to beginning yet again. We commend your very being to all that is eternal. We commit to helping create a new beginning in your ending. And we commit our lives to the work that you prepared us to carry onward in your memory. May it be a blessed morning of remembrance and memory keeping. And may it be so. Amen. Thank you. You may be seated. Friends, one of the ways in which we physically and actively embody the future and the world we want to see here and now, the heaven on earth, is through our weekly ingathering of our gifts. Not simply because we're just taking our money and giving it away, but because we entrust it to the beloved community beyond these walls that we know and we believe can do more with those gifts than we can. We have a rich tradition here of embodying heaven on earth through our 50-50 designation of our plate. 50%, of course, stays here so we can keep these ministries going, so that we can, of course, make the beloved community we want to see within these walls, and we can, of course, commit ourselves to justice and love in the world. But 50% goes directly back into the world in the form of collective impact grants and gifts that are offered to organizations and nonprofits that we know can do the most good with those precious resources. So in the spirit of lasting and enduring love and gratitude, the offering will now most graciously be received. As we prepare for this hour with one another to come to a conclusion, we have a few invitations for you today, starting with the format of how we are going to conclude our time with one another, following my spoken blessing and then a blessing from the choir. Jonathan Tuuk will be generously offering a time of organ meditation. Use it as you wish and may and so desire. I invite you to take a moment during that space to breathe deeply, to hold the seasons and the multitudes of truths within your very being. And when you're ready, you may depart. Use this space as a gift and a resource to your spirit. Additionally, each and every one of you is invited over to the social hall, where we have coffee and tea and connection available for everyone. It's a good place to connect with one another, see old friends, make new ones. Please find your way over there into that space of warmth and generosity as we hold one another closely on this special and solemn day. We also have a social justice film this afternoon that will be in the chapel. That is about the life of Harvey Milk. Our Pride Circle will also be offering commentary and some discussion as well for that film, and so please make your way to that if that is a part of your day you so wish to invest in. A huge thanks to everyone who made this time of remembrance possible. Thank you so much to my colleague, Reverend Jody. Thank you so much to Austin, Todd, Jonathan, our tech staff, the choir, the ushers. It takes a village. And it is the very village that keeps one another going in these times, in these places, in these spaces where we hold the multitudes most intimately. It is said that death is the great equalizer. No one of us is immune from it, be it our own or of someone we love or care about. So hold on to that truth as we go forward today, aware of our oneness, not only with one another, but with those around us. Hold the compassion of this great truth, this unifying force and reality close to your heart. Extend a little more love and generosity where you can. Embody peace and light where you can. And go forth renewed by the power of love and keeping the memory of those who loved us wherever and whenever you can. Go in peace. Go in love. Amen.